Hello and welcome to Pete's Guide to the Maths Paper 2 that you did as Mock 2 just after Christmas. It's a calculator paper, and the point of the video is to take you through and show you how to do the questions and the best approach for answering similar questions when you come to your exams in June. Question 1. 60% of the students at school walk to school. Work out the percentage of the students who do not walk to school. Now, this question is a simple check of your understanding that things add up to 100%. So if you had 100% and you take away the 60%, it leaves you with 40% who do not walk to school. So the answer would be 40%. Now, you don't have to show the working out that I've given you here. As it's 1 mark, they will accept just the correct answer, 40%, on the answer line. Question 2. Here is a list of numbers. One of these numbers is a power of 2. Which number? So this is just another way of saying, do you recognize square numbers? For example, 2 squared, and this is the power of 2, gives us our square number of 4. Now, at GCSE level, you should be able to identify square numbers up to 100. So 1, 4, 9, 16. Now, 16 is in our list, and it comes from 4 squared, which is another way of writing 4 times 4, which gives us 16. So the correct answer for 1 mark is 16. Again, you don't have to show the working out that I've done, just the correct answer on the answer line is good enough for the marks. Question 3. The probability of an event is shown by the cross on the probability scale, and our scale goes from 0 to 1, and our cross is roughly in the center. So you can have a half or 0.5. So write down an estimate for the probability. You can write down a half or 0.5 on the answer line for your 1 mark. Question 4. Write 1/5 as a decimal. Now, 1/5, you should understand, is actually 1 divided by 5 in mathematics. So if you do this on your calculator, it will give you 0.2. Another way to find the correct answer is write 1/5 on your calculator and press equals, and then press the SD button, and that again will give you 0.2. So for 1 mark, they just need to see 0.2 on the answer line. Question 5. Deborah recorded the favourite colour of each of the 30 students in her class. The incomplete table shows some information about her result. Complete the table for Deborah's result for 1 mark. So what we need to do is add up the students that we have already. So 7 plus 6 plus 5 plus 10 gives us 28. So 30, take away the 28, means there are 2 students that chose another colour. What is the modal colour? The mode is the most. So who chose the most? Well, 10 people chose blue, so the modal colour is blue. Finally, Mark asked each student in a different class to name their favourite colour. For this class, the number of students who said blue is 3 times the number of students who said green. Write down the ratio of the number of students who said blue to the number of students who said green. So basically our ratio is 3 to 1. 3 students said blue to every 1 that said green. Question 6. Here is a list of numbers. From the numbers in the list, write down an even number. So an even number needs to end in 0, 2, 4, 6 or 8. So the even number is 22. Part B. Write down a multiple of 9. So multiples are your times tables. Multiples multiply. So 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, and so on. And you can see from the list, 63 is the multiple of 9. Finally, write down a square number, something very similar to the previous question. So you're looking for one of the square numbers, again, which you must be able to identify from 0 to 10 squared. And we know that 7 squared is 7 times 7, which is 49. I recognise that 49 is a square number. So 49 is our square number. Question 7. Yaroslav puts some items into his rucksack. The table shows the weight of each item. The rucksack has a weight of 275 grams. Work out the total weight of the rucksack and all of the items and give your answer in kilograms. To start with, we have two items of 120 grams, which gives us 240 grams of apples. And again, we have 2 bottles of water at 524 grams. Take no chances and put it into your calculator, and you get 1048 grams. We now need to add the rest of the items. So add the 474, the 86, the 214, and the 339. And that will give us a total for the amount of items that are in his rucksack. And this gives us a total of 2,401 grams. What we need to do now is add the weight of the rucksack, which is 275 grams, to give us a grand total in grams of 2676 grams. Now we need the answer in kilograms. So to get from grams to kilograms, we need to divide by 1,000, the kilo meaning 1,000. So 2676 divided by 1,000 gives us 2.676 kilograms. 2.676 on the answer line. Question 8. Here are the first 5 numbers in a sequence. Find the first negative number of the sequence. So to look at the sequence, we can see that we are always subtracting 6. So if we continue the sequence, we have 23 minus 6 is 17, 17 minus 6 is 11, 11 minus 6 is 5, and 5 minus 6 gives us minus 1. So the first negative number in the sequence is minus 1. And this is good enough to show you're working out. Sarah says minus 100 is not a number in the sequence. Is she correct, and explain why? Well, yes, she is correct. And the reason is because all of the numbers in our sequence are odd, and minus 100 is even. Question 9. Becky invests £5,000 for 2 years in a bank account. She gets a simple interest rate of 3% per year. Work out the total amount of interest Becky gets at the end of her 2 years. Well, simple interest means our 3% over 2 years will give her 6% on her £5,000. So 6% of the £5,000 will give us an interest of £300. So £300 is the correct answer. Question 10. A teacher asks George to think of a number. She then says, add 10 to your number and multiply the answer by 3. George thinks of the number 5 and he writes down 5 plus 10 times 3 equals 35. What should George have written down? Well, the teacher's instructions say you need to add the 10 first, but what George has done is written everything down in one go, and BidMaths tells him to multiply 10 by 3 first. In order to force the addition first, you need to put brackets around the 5 plus 10. So BidMaths does the brackets first. So what he should have written was 5 plus 10 in brackets, and then multiply it by 3. So that becomes 15 times 3 is 45. Question 11. Polly has a full 5 kilogram sack of rice. She pours the rice from this sack into bags, and she fills as many bags as possible. Each full bag contains 350 grams of rice. How many bags did Polly fill with the sack of rice? Well, the sack of rice at the moment is in kilograms, and we need to convert it into grams. So again, the kilo tells us to multiply by 1,000. So 5 kilograms is in fact 5,000 grams. Now, to work out how many 350 bags we can get from our 5 kilograms, we divide the 5,000 by 350, and we get 14.285714, and it recurs between 2 and the 4. That's exactly as it appears on my calculator. So really, if we were talking about how many bags that Polly can get, we need to round it down because we don't want to have 0.285714 of a bag. So for the correct answer, you would write 14 bags. Polly assumes that the rice from 2 sacks would fill twice as many bags as the rice from 1 sack. Is Polly correct? You must give a reason. Well, yes, she is correct, as it will fill 28 bags, with some left over. Because if we double the 0.28, it's not going to give us a whole number. Question 12. A rule to change a UK shoe size to a European shoe size is multiply the UK shoe size by 1.25 and then add 32. European shoe sizes are given as whole numbers. So Katie's UK shoe size is a 5, and we need to work out Katie's European shoe size. So if we take our 5 and go by the instructions here, we have to multiply 5 by 1.25, and that gives us 6.25. We then need to add 32. So when we add 32, we end up with 38.25. Now, it has to be a whole number, so we need to round 38.25 to just 38. Now, Gustav's European shoe size is 42. Work out Gustav's UK shoe size. So because we're coming the other way, we have our European size and we want our UK size, we have to reverse the process for doing the UK shoe sizes. So we start off with 42, and the first thing we do is the opposite of add 32, which is we subtract 32. So 42 minus 32 is 10. And then the next thing to do is, instead of multiplying by 1.25, we divide by 1.25, and that gives us a size 8. So Gustav's UK shoe size is a size 8. Okay, question 13 has a graph, and Judith and Simon are organising different parties at a hotel. This graph can be used to find the cost in pounds for different numbers of people. Judith has £700 to spend on a party. Find the greatest number of people she can have at her party. What this task involves is reading from a straight line graph. So if we go to the £700 that Judith has and draw a straight line across to our costing line, and then draw another straight line from where it cuts down to find out the number of people, we need to then work out what each of the smaller scales are worth. If we have 30 to 40 and 10 divisions, each one of these small divisions is one person. So we have 31, 32, 33, 34 people. So part A, the answer is 34 people. Now, Using the same graph, Simon is organising a party for 20 people. Use the graph to find the cost. So he wants 20 people, so we're going to use this axis this time first until it hits our cost line, and then from our cost line we're going to draw a line across and find out how much he's going to be charged. And again, we need to understand what the scale is. Now we have 5 divisions for every £100. So £100 divided by 5 means that each of our small squares is £20. So it's roughly £440. There is a second part to question 13 about Judith and Simon organising different parties at a hotel. Okay, now the part C is asking us to work out the cost for each extra person. So what we need to do is pick 2 points, maybe at each end of our graph, and take a reading of how much it costs for that number of people. And then we can divide it by that amount. Now, the quickest and easiest way to do this is to look at how much it costs for no people, and then we can say a nice round number like 50 people here. So 0 people costs £100. So we have £100 and 0 people. Now, if we go to 50 people and a cross on our graph, we end up with £980. So £980 minus the £100 for no people gives us £880, and that is for our 50 people. So £880 divided by our 50 people gives us £17.60 per person. So £17.60 is how much each additional person costs. Question 14. Write £4.20, £1.40 and £7 in its simplest form. Well, the best way to address this is to write the amounts down in pence. So we're just dealing with 1 unit. Now, in its simplest form, it's just like fractions where you can divide each of your parts of your ratio by the same number. So straight away, I can see they all divide by 10. So I end up with 42, 14, and 70. Now again, I can see, knowing my 7 times table, that 42, 14, and 70 are all divisible by 7. So 6 sevens are 42, 2 sevens are 14, and 10 sevens are 70. And I can see they're all divisible by 2 because they're all even. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So the final simplest form for the ratio is 3 to 1 to 5. Now the next bit again is about ratio. So we have our original ratio of 6 to 4, and they want something to 1. Now to get from 4 to 1, I've had to divide it by 4. And what you do to one side, you divide by 4 on the other side. So 6 divided by 4 is 1.5. So 1.5 is the number that's missing on the dotted line. And you can write it here if you want to. Question 15. ABC is a straight line. BD is equal to CD, in other words, they're the same length, and show that the angle BDC, so BDC, this angle here, is 40 degrees. Give a reason for each stage of your working. So my first bit of working is that this angle here is 180 degrees minus 110, leaving 70 degrees. So this angle is 70 degrees because the angles on a straight line add up to 180. Now, this angle here is also 70 degrees because we have an isosceles triangle. If these two sides are the same, then these two angles are the same. So the angle BCD is also 70 degrees. Now, We know the angles in a triangle add up to 180, so I've got my two angles of 70 degrees at the bottom of my isosceles triangle, giving me 140 degrees, and then 180 subtract my 140 gives me the 40 degrees for angle BDC that I need to show here. So that's 40 degrees. Question 16. In a tin of baked beans, the weight of the beans is proportional to the weight of the tomatoes and the weight of the other ingredients, in the ratio of 3 to 2 to 1. There are 150 grams of tomatoes in the tin. Work out the weight of the beans. So we've got 3 to 2 to 1 for the beans, the tomatoes, and the other ingredients. Now we've been given the weight of the tomatoes, so the 150 lives under the tomatoes. So to get from the 2 to the 150, 150 divided by 2 means I've multiplied it by 75. So what I do to one of my ratios, I need to do the others. So I'm looking for the weight of my beans, so I multiply that by 75, and I end up with 225 grams. So the answer is 225 grams. Question 17. Riddington and Greenwick are two small villages. The population of Riddington has increased from 80 to 120 people, and the population of Greenwick has decreased from 200 people to 120 people. Show that Riddington has had a greater percentage change in its population. You must show all of your working out. So for Riddington, we have percentage change, which is the difference divided by the original amount. So the difference is 120 people, take away the 80, which gives us 40 people, divided by the original amount, which was 80. So 40 divided by 80 times 100% gives us a 50% change in the population of Riddington. Now for Greenwick, our percentage change is our difference. So we had 200 people and it went down to 120. So we have a change of 80 people. So it's 80, that's my difference, divided by my original amount, which was 200 in this case. Multiply it by the 100%, and you end up with a 40% change in the population for Greenwick. So Riddington had a greater percentage change in population because it had 50%, whereas Greenwick only had a 40% change. Andy flies from the UK to Japan. His plane ticket costs £554. Andy then flies from Japan to Australia. His plane ticket costs 70,140 Japanese yen. The exchange rate is £1 to 140 Japanese yen. Layla flies from the UK to Australia. Her plane ticket costs 1,860 Australian dollars. The exchange rate is 1 Australian dollar is 62 pence. Who pays more to fly from the UK to Australia, Andy or Layla? You must show clearly how you get your answer. Well, let's look at Andy first. We've got his original cost from UK to Japan of £554. What we need to do next is convert the 70,140 Japanese yen into pounds. So it's a ratio. We have pounds to yen, and it's £1 is 140 Japanese yen. He's got 70,140 Japanese yen, so it goes under the yen side of our ratio. Now, how did I get from 140 to 70,140? I divide 70,140 by 140, and this tells me he paid £501. So the scale is 501, so it's £501. Now we need to add the original 554, which gives us a total for Andy's trip of £1,055. Now, for Layla, she flew direct from UK to Australia, and we have an exchange rate because she paid in Australian dollars of Australian dollars to UK pounds of £1 Australian dollar is 62 pence. And she paid $1,860. So the 1,860 lives under the dollars. So to get from 1 to 1,860, we've multiplied by 1,860. Which is what we need to do on this side of our ratio. And when you do that, you end up with £1,153.20. So Layla paid £1,153.20. So who pays more to fly from the UK to Australia? It's Layla pays more. Question 19. Oliver records the distance from London of each 8 cities in the USA. He also records the time taken to fly from London to each of these cities. The scatter graph shows this information. The question goes on to ask, Chicago is a city 4,000 miles away. So the first thing we need to do with our scatter graph is draw a line of best fit and estimate the time taken to fly from London to Chicago. So let's go back to our diagram, our scatter graph, and draw a straight line for our line of best fit. There we go. Now, we need to find out how long it takes to fly to Chicago, and we know it's 4,000 miles. So what they want us to do is, using our line of best fit, draw a line across from the 4,000 miles till we hit our line of best fit, and then draw another line straight down to work out our time. Now, looking at the time taken, we have 450 and 10 divisions to 500. So each division is 5 minutes. So 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 minutes onto our 450. So the time taken is 450 minutes, plus the 40 we counted is 490 minutes. 490 minutes. Why is your answer to part 1 only an estimate? The reason is the line of best fit is only an estimate. And it's put where I believe the line of best fit is. And it's different for everybody because we all see where it lies differently. So the line of best fit itself is only an estimate, therefore any readings that come from it must be estimates. Calculate the gradient of your line of best fit. So the gradient of a line is the rise divided by the run. So we need to pick 2 points on our graph that are nice round numbers and divide how much it goes up by how much it goes across. So if we choose 2 nice round numbers like 450 minutes and let's say 550 minutes and take the readings. So 450 minutes, these are minutes and these are the distances. So our 450 minutes, and each of these smaller divisions is 50 miles. So that's roughly 350, sorry, that is roughly 3,500, 3,600 miles. Let's do the same for our 550 minutes. What we have is 4,500 miles with just 50, so 4,550 miles. So the difference in our time is 100 minutes. So that's 550 take away the 450. And then the 4,550 minus 3,600 is 950 miles. So in 100 minutes, we travel 950 miles. So to go back to our gradient question, the rise, in other words, how much distance do we travel? We travel 950 miles in 100 minutes, which gives us 9.5 as a gradient. So our gradient is 9.5. Give an interpretation of the gradient of your line of best fit. Well, the gradient represents speed. In other words, distance in miles and time in minutes. So the gradient represents speed, and speed is miles per minute. Question 20. Rotate shape S 90 degrees clockwise centered on 5,4 and label your image T. So 5,4 would be the center, and you would use a piece of tracing paper to draw an outline of shape S. Use your pencil to hold the tracing paper at position 5,4 and rotate it 90 degrees clockwise. So we're going to rotate it in that direction 90 degrees. So this corner here goes to position 4, 5. This corner here goes to position 3, 7, and this corner here would end up at position 7, 7, giving us triangle T that looks like that. And the giveaway is that this would be horizontal because this is vertical. Now it says to describe fully the single transformation that will map shape T onto shape S. So I need to go back the way. So we need to rotate 90 degrees, but this time anti-clockwise about the same point, otherwise it won't end up mapping onto S, about the position 5, 4, or it won't map back onto. Here are two rectangles. All measurements are in centimeters, and the area of rectangle A is equal to the area of rectangle B. Work out the perimeter of rectangle B. So some of the lengths are numbers and others are in algebra. So we need to write down how we work out the area of shape A. So it's 2.5 times 4x. Now we know we can multiply the numbers together, so 2.5 times 4 is 10x. So the area of shape A is 10x, and that would be centimeters squared. Now for shape B, we have something similar, where one of the sides is 7 centimeters, and we need to multiply it by the other side, which is 2x minus 3. So when we do this, 7 times 2 is 14x, so just like opening brackets, and then 7 times minus 3 is minus 21. So the area of shape B is 14x minus 21, and that would be in centimeters squared. Now we need to be able to solve this, and we're being told that A is the same area as B. So we can formulate an equation out of this. We can say that 10x is equal to 14x minus 21. Now, this is a three-step equation where the first thing we need to do is get all of the x's on the same side. So if I take away 10x from this side and I take away 10x from that side, we have nothing left over on this side and 4x minus 21 on the other side. Now it becomes a two-step equation. First of all, I need to get rid of the minus 21. by adding 21 on both sides. So 21 equals 4x. And then finally, I need x on its own, so I divide by 4, and I divide the other side by 4. So 21 divided by 4 gives us 5.25. So x is equal to 5.25. Now, knowing what the value of x is allows us to substitute it into our perimeter for b. So 2x minus 3 simply means 2 times the value of x, which is 5.25, subtract 3. So that gives us 10.5, take away 3 is 7.5. Our perimeter, therefore, is 7.5 plus 7 plus 7.5 plus 7, giving us 29 centimeters. So the answer on the answer line would be 29. Question 22 has a diagram that shows a fair four-sided spinner. Hasmeet is going to spin the spinner twice. Complete the probability tree diagram. So the probability of landing on A on the first spin is 3 out of the 4, so 3 over 4. Whereas landing on B must be what's left, which is 1 over 4. And then the second spin would be 3 out of 4. This would be 1 out of 4, 3 out of 4, and 1/4. Okay. So that's our probability tree complete. Now, it's asking us in part B to work out the probability that the spinner will land on A on the first spin and B on the second spin. So A on the first spin and then B on the second spin. So we have 3/4 and we need to multiply it by 1/4. You can do this on your calculator or you can do it manually. So you end up with 3/16 as the probability of rolling A on the first spin and B on the second spin. Question 23 gives you a formula and then it asks you to substitute A as 8 and B as 10 inside that formula. So, and then come out with a value for S and give your answer to 3 significant figures. So what we need to do is, using S, is write this out in longhand. So pi, we're told on the front of the exam paper, is 3.142 and we need to square it. Then we need to multiply it by brackets, whatever B is, which is 10 squared, and then subtract A, which is 8 squared, and then close the brackets. Now, if you entered this exactly as it is here into your calculator, you will get the correct answer. And the answer you get is, on the calculator, 335.397904. Once you've written down exactly what the calculator shows, write down the answer rounded to 3 significant figures. So significant figures start with the biggest numbers, which are the whole numbers. So the 3 and 3 and 5 are the most significant, and that's the third significant figures. So what you need to do is decide whether to stick on 5 or round up to a 6 based on the next number along. Now, because it's a 0.3, you'll stick with the 5. So rounded to 3 significant figures, you end up with 335. Question 24. Only blue vans and white vans are made in a factory. The ratio of the number of blue vans to the number of white vans is 4:3. Write down the fraction of the vans that are blue. Now, because we've got 7 parts, 4:3 means 4/7 and 3/7. And because blue vans come first in our words, then the 4 applies to the blue vans. So it's 4/7. Now, part B says, for blue vans, the number of small vans is in the ratio of the number of large vans is 3:5. Work out the fraction of the number of vans made in the factory that are blue and large. Well, we already know blue is 4/7. So for large, we have 8 parts. And because we're looking at large vans is the second number in this ratio, which is 5/8. So we need to multiply our original 4/7, which is our blue vans, by our 5/8, which is our large vans. And when we do this, we end up with 20/56, which can be simplified. And you can do this on your calculator. Simply put in 20/56 as a fraction and press equals, and it will tell you it simplifies to 5/14. So 5/14 would be the correct answer. Question 25. Linda recorded the temperature in degrees C at 9 a.m. on each of 30 days. The table shows the information about her results. So we have a frequency table involving continuous data. Calculate an estimate for the mean temperature and give your answer correct to 1 decimal place. So to calculate the mean of a frequency table, especially one with continuous data, we need to take the middle value of our range of numbers. So between 10 and 12, we have 11, and we need to multiply that by 3 to give us a total temperature of 33 degrees. And we need to go down our table, completing the midpoint, so 13, 15, 17 and 19, and multiplying it by our frequency count, which is our number of days. And this will give us our total temperature. Now, once you have your total temperature, you need to add all of these up and divide by the number of days to work out your mean temperature. So what you end up with is 434 is the total of our temperatures, divided by our 30 days, gives us 14.46 recurring. That's exactly as it appears on the calculator. Now they want the answer to 1 decimal place, so that's our 1 decimal place, but in order to decide whether to stick with 4 or round up to a 5, we need to look at the next number along. Now, because it's a 6, we need to round it up. So we end up with 14.5 as our mean temperature to the nearest 1 decimal place. Question 26, the final question. The diagram shows a square ABCD of side 8 centimeters inside a circle center 0. The vertices of the square lie on a circle. Work out the total area of the 4 shaded segments and give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. Okay, in order to work this out, we need to calculate the radius of the circle to work out the area of the circle, which is pi r squared. Now, to work that out, we know that the triangle here has a right angle and that the hypotenuse is 8 centimeters long. So using Pythagoras, which says a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and we know our hypotenuse is 8, so we're going to square it, we know that a squared plus b squared is equal to 64. Now, because a squared and b squared, if this is a and b, are the same lengths, we know that 2a squared is 64. In other words, I've got a and I've also got a here because it's the same length as b. So if I divide the 64 by 2 first, a squared is equal to 32. So the length of the radius a is the square root of 32. Now we don't have to calculate the exact amount for the square root of 32, because one of the first things we're going to do now is, because a is also our radius that we're going to put into this calculation, we can leave it as 32. So pi is 3.142 times, now r squared, which is a squared, is 32. So we have 3.142 times 32. And that gives us 100.544 as the area of our circle. Then what we need to do is take away the area of our square. So we know one of the sides is 8 centimeters, and being a square, the other side is 8 centimeters, so the area is 64 centimeters squared. And our circle is 100.544 centimeters squared. So what we need to do as a final calculation is take one from the other to find out the shaded area, which is 36.544 centimeters squared. Now it wants the answer to three significant figures. So the first, second, and third significant figure is there. So 5 is the third significant figure. Looking at the next number along, which is a 4, we stick with 5. So 36.5 is the answer to our question to three significant figures. And that concludes the exam paper.